It's no secret that this channel isn't shy or afraid of putting high-end products up against less expensive ones in our reviews, and I know there are dissenting voices in the community that don't always understand or agree with the routes we take to review a product, especially if it goes against long-held beliefs. But our unorthodox approach often reveals aspects of a product's performance, good or bad, that might otherwise have been missed. In some cases, you end up learning that the underdog actually outperforms Goliath. For example, during our Name Classic review last year, I went ahead and I bought EverSolo's DAC Z8 to see what all the fuss was about, and I thought, why not compare the two? While the NSC222's built-in streamer makes it a little bit more versatile, the $9,000 Name's preamp and DAC functionality couldn't compete with the $700 EverSolo, something I would have never guessed would have been possible, but it was, and the Z8 has been my reference DAC ever since. Now, EverSolo has released the new DMP-A8, a complete preamp, DAC, and streaming music solution inside an all-new aluminum chassis. At 15 inches, the A8 is almost full width and a very subtle departure from the brand's more desktop-friendly designs. Like the A6, the A8 features a large color touchscreen that allows users full manual control over the preamp, as well as displays metadata, cover art, and really other cool visuals like, say, analog meters, not dissimilar from Macintosh and Yamaha. The A8 gives you a ton of connection options, both analog and digital. Starting with outputs. On the digital side, there are two USBs, an optical and coaxial output, and an HDMI port. For analog outputs, there are balanced and unbalanced options. Yes, the A8 has a fully balanced preamp circuit. You can isolate the outputs or use them simultaneously, allowing you to send a signal to a separate power amplifier and maybe a subwoofer or two. When it comes to inputs for digital, there's Ethernet, a pair of coaxial and optical inputs, a single USB, and my favorite, HDMI with ARC and eARC support, albeit in stereo. For analog, you're going to find a pair of balanced and unbalanced options. What's missing is a built-in phono preamp, but since the A8 has analog inputs, there is a workaround that will keep your record spinning. Just connect a third-party phono preamp and you're good to go. You can also connect a CD player or transport using the A8's USB connection, where you can rip your CDs to its internal storage using the built-in CD rip app. And by the way, the storage is totally expandable thanks to the easy access SSD slot on the bottom of the unit. Of course, the A8 supports a ton of wireless connection options too, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0, and AirPlay. Now, technically, we're on Bluetooth 5.3 at this point, but 5.3 is an incremental update of 5.0, and it doesn't really result in higher quality playback the way the jump to 5.0 was over, say, original Bluetooth. The EverSolo also supports DLNA and Tidal Connect with MQA, plus it has support for music services like Amazon Music, Qobuz, and Deezer. Now, if you're an Apple Music user like I am, there is no native support for the platform within the EverSolo Control app the way there is for other services, but there is a workaround. When you install the Apple Music app onto the EverSolo itself, you can interact with Apple Music by using the cast feature inside the app, which is brilliant. Now, the DACs inside the A8 have some pretty impressive specs. They use AKM DACs, specifically the AK4191 EQ and the 4499EX chips, along with a ton of other super technical features that contribute to their ability to play back high-res audio files, including DSD512 and PCM at 32768. So not only is the A8 a DAC and a streamer, it is also a full-feature stereo preamp, and this allowed me to use the A8 as the centerpiece of my two-channel setup. And I paired the EverSolo with three different amplifiers: the Class D Primaire 35.2, Class AB Audiolab 8300 XP, and lastly, because I know you love it when we do this, the wickedly expensive Class A Delta stereo amplifier. Everything was tested using both unbalanced and balanced connections. I was able to take advantage of the ARC eARC functionality via HDMI by using the A8 between our Apple TV 4K and Sony's new 98-inch X90 LTV. Sticking with Focal's new Aria Evo X speakers limited the number of variables in my system when evaluating the sound or lack thereof. And lastly, I tested the A8 with and without a subwoofer using the smaller Klipsch SPL100. In our setup, I was able to control the EverSolo in 4 very different ways, using the included Bluetooth remote, using its app, manually on the touchscreen, and with our Apple TV remote, which controlled the EverSolo using basic CEC. Once I had the A8 set up, I was able to use my Apple TV remote to carry out basic commands like volume, play, pause, or mute rather than always having to grab my phone, which I really appreciated. But back to the app, my God, is it comprehensive and can even be a little overwhelming at first. If you like to customize things, the A8 is going to tug real hard at your heartstrings. EverSolo's app is everything that I love about the WIM and Cambridge app, but with more functionality. Think mini DSP, except the EverSolo has a better graphic interface that none of the others really have. It took me about a day or so to get familiar with the app, but once I learned the ins and outs, I could tune my entire system from my listening chair using just my iPhone. My favorite feature, bar none, has to be the ability to create multiple DSP filters for every input or output combination to tune whatever I connect to the A8 to my liking. I created 4 distinct filter sets for the focals alone that I could toggle between based on what I was listening to or who was listening. Yes, I created a DSP profile just for KRISTI that helped to improve dialogue clarity. By luck, I guess, CLASSE's HDMI board arrived while I was testing the EverSolo, which allowed me to compare the Delta preamp to the A8. Now, EverSolo's HDMI implementation was trouble-free, and its touch interface and control app made it way easier to use than the $10,000 CLASSE. In fact, the A8 is so versatile and user-friendly that I'm now beginning to rethink a lot of my thoughts on the Delta Pre. Sorry, CLASSE. So let's talk about its sound quality. If you're of the mindset that the mark of a good hi-fi product is its ability to impart no sound of its own, I think you're gonna find the 8 among the better stereo preamps you're ever gonna hear. Not since my early days of using passive line stages have I come across a preamp that is such a clear window to the signal as the A8. It is beyond easy to discern differences between various power amplifiers when using the A8 as a preamp. The A8's DACs, internal parts, and layout scheme offer an extraordinary level of detail, nuance, dimension, separation, and even isolation of every note and lyric. And when directly compared to other preamps that we have in-house, including the costlier CLASSE, for me, the EverSolo is just better. About the CLASSE, while its level of detail and weightier mid-range or mid-bass is impressive, it simply couldn't keep up with the EverSolo's detail retrieval and separation. Nor could it match the black hole-like background when paired with equally silent amplifiers like the Primera 35.2. Keep in mind, this is without any additional tuning or alteration using DSP or EQ. But when you take advantage of the 8's phenomenal DSP capabilities, the results are even better. For example, with DSP, the focal's response sat in even better alignment with our room's acoustics. And while the CLASSE Delta Pre has PEQ and a touchscreen, making changes to your speaker's response using DSP is just way easier, not to mention more fun, with the EverSolo. Quick break to thank today's sponsor, Keeps. Like a lot of men, my hair started to thin a lot earlier than I expected, and I didn't realize how much help I needed till I started this channel a few years ago. I mean, viewers are not shy about letting you know when something is off. But thanks to Keeps, I feel more confident now when I'm on camera, and I've been able to treat my thinning hair and stimulate new hair growth so well, in fact, that some of you have even thought that I've had some work done. Nope. Just Keeps. With Keeps' subscription-based service, I get my FDA-approved treatment products along with shampoos and conditioners that keep my hair looking thicker and healthier, and all at a price that I can afford and without ever having to leave my home since there are no time-consuming doctor or pharmacy visits. Keeps makes it easy to speak with a professional online, and then your order is just shipped directly right to your door. To date, Keeps has helped nearly 1 million men keep their hair, myself included. Hair loss stops with Keeps. To get your special offer, go to keeps.com/Andrew Robinson or click the link in the description and try it for yourself. That's keeps.com/Andrew Robinson. And now back to the EverSolo. EverSolo's clarity, detail, and separation throughout the soundstage carried over no matter what I connected to it. Again, the DAC is exceptional, especially if you are looking for one that is less colored. Even television and movie broadcasts sounded clearer and more dynamic when compared to the Yamaha 1000A, a product we love. Being able to use the custom DSP filters on top of the A8's already articulate sound really is just the icing on the cake. Moving on to EverSolo's streaming capabilities. I didn't forget. I love that I can listen to my favorite playlists without having to rely on Bluetooth or AirPlay. In case you missed this point earlier, Apple Music is not technically supported natively inside the EverSolo app the way Tidal and, say, Amazon are, but you can use the app's cast feature, and you're likely never going to know the difference. Compared to the EverSolo DMP-A6, streaming with the A8 is no different. If you're just using the A6 as a streamer and you're happy with it, skip the upgrade because the user experience is going to be basically the same. I'm not suggesting the A8 isn't the better product. It most definitely is. Not only do you get additional functionality and improved internal parts, but there are substantial gains in sound quality. The sound is more refined, and in my opinion, the 8 is the better product. But while the 8 borders on perfection, I would like to see a few small things addressed in future firmware updates. Let's start with the only bug that I was able to find. When using third-party remotes that rely on HDMI for control, you may run into an issue when controlling volume. Our Apple TV remote could only turn the volume down on the A8 to 50%. While this was quiet enough for my needs, there appears to be a hard stop at 50. If I manually turn the volume below 50, the Apple TV remote could had no issues going beyond 50, but it could not go lower than 50. While I love the A8's DSP functionality, I think a more straightforward base management solution is needed. It would be easier for people to adopt, especially more novice users. The 8's base management needs to look more like what you're going to find on, say, an AVR or other capable stereo preamps, because right now, it has a bit of a learning curve. It's not impossible to run 1 or 2 subs off the A8 and even apply PEQ to their response, but I believe there's room for even greater support and flexibility for subwoofers in a future firmware update. Moving on to comparisons, the closest apples-to-apples comparison not from EverSolo is probably NAD's brand spanking new M66 stereo preamp streamer. But the M66 costs more than double what I paid for the EverSolo. The M66 does come with DIAGNOSTICS, support for multiple subwoofers, and a built-in phono preamp, but I can't say if those extras will justify spending more or if the M66 sounds better, especially if you already know how to generate your own PEQ filters inside Room EQ Wizard, which you should know by now because I made a video on it last year. I'm going to reserve final judgment until hopefully I get the opportunity to review the NAD, so let's just call this one a draw for now. Now, comparing apples to diamonds with the Class A Delta Pre, I actually applaud Class A for being forward-thinking with such a high-end piece, but the EverSolo shows ultra-high-end brands just how far they have to go if they're going to remain truly competitive. The Delta Pre sounds great, but I personally prefer the user experience and even the sound quality of the A8. EverSolo goes toe-to-toe with the Delta Pre for a fraction of the cost. Compared to another favorite of mine, Mini DSP's SHD, the A8 is everything that I love about the SHD, but it comes with a drastically lower learning curve. Plus, the 8 has even better sound quality and more features. Now, I know Mini DSP just dropped the Flex HTX, which, from what I can tell, appears to be the SHD, but with HDMI. We'll see if we're given the chance to test the Flex, but considering what an impressive experience the A8 has been so far, my SHD may be headed for early retirement. Of course, there are also less expensive options, like Cambridge Audio's new CXN100, which is a really good streamer and analog sounding DAC, but as a preamp, it's not competitive in 2024. If you don't need HDMI or the upgraded DACs, as I said earlier, you can save and go with EverSolo's DMP-A6 and have a similar user experience with good sound in its own right, but the A8, sorry, it outclasses it. And then there's the WIM Pro. Again, great product and surprisingly capable little preamp, provided you have a more simple stereo setup or one that's pretty much centered on streaming, but guys, it does not upset the A8. In all my years of evaluating hi-fi and home theater equipment, I can literally count on one hand the number of products that have risen to the standard of being transformative. While I'm sure some of you are likely going to take issue with my word choice, believe me when I say I thought really long and hard about it when it came to sum up how I feel about EverSolo's DMP-A8. And for me, it's just that. This is not hyperbole. I truly believe this is one of the best and most transformative products I've ever experienced. That's it. That is now my review of EverSolo's DMP-A8 stereo preamp DAC streaming solution. What did you guys think? And you know what? I know what you're thinking. Where's KRISTI? Well, we've actually been working on some stuff behind the scenes, and KRISTI came up with a really good idea, and we're gonna actually, well, by the time you see this video, we may or may not have debuted it already, but we're hoping to bring a little bit more of the flavor of our live streams, plus directly answer certain questions you may have about the product we're reviewing any given week, and kind of follow it up with a after the review, sit down, chat, little mixer. And so that is where KRISTI's contribution, well, beyond what she does every day here, but that's where you're going to be able to catch her thoughts on a particular product. And we're just doing this to have a little bit of fun. You know, she came to me with the idea, and I thought it sounded like a good one. So we're going to give it a shot. So I hope you will tune in later in the week for our follow-up review of the EverSolo A8 here. But in the meantime, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Do the things. If you use any of the links that KRISTI's left for you down below, see, she still works. Know that that's a great way that you have always shown your support for this channel and the work that we do here, and we thank you very much for that. And follow me on Instagram, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next video.